All right, welcome in, guys. Farzin Vasugian here with you on a Friday night. It is another installment of the Red Friday Live chat. Thank you for spending part of your Friday night with me. Started a little late today, so my apologies. I know I try to let you guys know in advance when I do these because I see a lot of people join like really late in the live stream. They're like, "Oh, bummed out. I missed out on a live stream." So, which is cool. We're starting to get more and more people that are into these live streams. They want to catch them really a full length, which is great. I love seeing that. There are also people who watch the archive version. I appreciate that as well. So welcome all of you, whether you're watching live or if you're watching the archive version. By the way, for those who are watching the archive version, because I get this sometimes, this does happen occasionally. I'll get comments from people saying, "Hey, why aren't you answering my question?" And these are people who are watching hours after the live chat. If you see the somewhere up here, if you see that it says live, that means you're watching me live. If you don't see like a red rectangle that says live on it, then you're watching an archived version of this exact video right here. So feels a little weird to say as I'm doing this live, but just had to put that out there because I'm not ignoring anyone. No, not ignoring anyone, I promise. But yeah, I mean, regardless, even if you catch the archive version, I definitely appreciate those who tune in and watch or listen to what I have to say, even afterwards. But a majority of the people who are watching and commenting, and as I respond to their comments, that is all live, of course. A couple of things I wanted to get into today before I turn it over to you guys. You guys can ask your questions, bring up comments, speak up, whatever's on your mind. I'll read that. I'll be honest, I don't want this to be a very long show tonight. It's been a crazy day, in a good way. Just one of those days. I'm ready to unwind and relax to end the Friday. So I don't want this to be a very long live chat. I'll say that right now. But I do want to get to a couple of stories that have been out there regarding the Kansas City Chiefs and some of the stories, the headlines that have been out there. First, this whole thing with Andy Reid and the head coaching rumors, because for a couple of years now, we have been told that Andy Reid is going to retire, and he does not retire. He comes back for the following season. This was a huge story last year, the day of Super Bowl 57, obviously before the Chiefs and Eagles kicked off. And I think it was Jay Glazer from Fox who was very adamant about a report, a source he got, supposedly, that Andy Reid's retiring. Now, in my opinion, whenever these insiders say things like this, do they have a source that might be saying something to them? Sure, I won't dismiss that. But I also think some of this might be like an educated guess. They're like, oh, well, Andy Reid is in his mid to late 60s. So yeah, it's coming up probably. I'm trying to think of the last Chiefs head coach to retire. I think it was Dick Vermeil, and I believe he was 69 years old. When he retired. Bill Belichick is 71 and wants to continue to coach. Everyone's different, of course. Everyone will retire at different times. So, to each their own. I don't know about Andy. I know a lot of people like to bring up Andy Reid's health. They don't say specifically what his health is, but obviously they're referring to the fact that he's overweight. So I always love when people dance around that. They're like, oh, Andy Reid's getting old and his health. What do you mean? Do you know something about his health that none of us know? Are you his doctor? Have you been evaluating him? Like, why are you bringing that up? I always think it's interesting when people bring up someone else's health and they're not doctors. Like, come on. But listen, here's my thing. I don't know if Andy Reid's retiring or not. I won't dismiss the possibility that he might be contemplating it. And by the way, some people were commenting and they said, well, Andy Reid was asked a couple of weeks ago and he said he's not thinking about retirement. Well, of course he's going to say that. What's he going to, let's say, seriously, think about this. Not meant to be like this is not meant to be mental gymnastics here. If Andy Reid really is contemplating retirement while the season is still ongoing, he's not going to tell the media, yeah, you're right, Nate Taylor, you're right. Adam Teicher and everyone else that's in there covering the team. Yeah, I'm going to tell you guys right now, I'm thinking about retiring, because that then turns into a distraction. I think I think Dick Vermeil, it became public knowledge. He told the team at some point. Carl Peterson knew for a while, but I think on January the 1st, technically 2006, yeah, it was the 05 season. It was public knowledge that, and it was on the front page of the Kansas City Stars website, that Dick Vermeil would be retiring. Now, if you guys remember, that was when the Chiefs were playing the Bengals for the final week of the regular season, and they also needed the Steelers to lose. I can't remember to who, which team they needed help from. The Chiefs did beat the Bengals. That was one where Trent Green went out there and threw a nasty block at a linebacker, which was really cool. One of the cooler quarterback highlights you'll ever see. And that was when Larry Johnson went off and had several good games that year. But the Steelers were not able to fall to whoever the Chiefs needed help from. That's the last time the Chiefs had a coach who retired, and not just a head coach retiring, but it became public knowledge before the end of the season officially. So ended up only having one game there. Listen, I don't know exactly the rumors about what's going on, what's really on Andy Reid's mind. I really don't. And by the way, I see a lot of you guys are coming in here. Whatever's on your mind, please comment below, ask questions, whatever you guys want to talk about. This Red Friday live chat is all about you guys. That's what we do each and every single Red Friday. So if you guys have any questions, comments, please comment below. I said this at the beginning of the live stream, so if you're just tuning in, I don't intend this to be a very long live chat. I want to keep it short. I say that every week, but it ends up being longer, and we always get an awesome turnout. So shout outs to you guys. You guys are air horns to you guys. Yeah. But anyway, listen, I think this year, compared to past years, the whole Andy Reid retirement rumors, they seem to be gaining more traction this year. And I think it's because you have Bill Belichick and Mike Vrabel who are available. Mike Vrabel was a surprise to a lot of people, and I've been very adamant that I think the Titans will look back and regret this one day. Listen, I've said this for years. I think Mike Vrabel is a fantastic head coach. I think the Titans, they were set up for success for a very long time, but they chose otherwise. Belichick, listen, if you want Belichick, fine, but you have to pretty much win a Super Bowl every year for it to be worth it, or at least continue reaching the AFC title game every single year for it to be worth it. Because I'm just using logic here. I don't think Belichick's, wherever he goes next, I don't think it's going to be a very long stay. Might be 2-3 years max. Just my guess. I don't know. Listen, Belichick, he's amazing. He's done a lot of wonderful things in Foxborough, but his last few drafts for the Patriots have been monumentally ass. I'm just being upfront here. Like, let's just be honest. They have been horrible. I just don't know if I would want Belichick right now at 71 or 72, whatever he's going to be going into next season. Again, this is hypothetically if the Reid retirement rumors are true, which I don't know. Again, for those of you joining late, I know what Reid said a couple of weeks ago, but if he really was contemplating retirement, he would not say that publicly. You don't do that kind of thing when you still have weeks to go in a regular season or postseason potentially. Vrabel, man, I'll be honest. I've been a huge fan of his for a very long time. He's younger. He has a very good understanding of the game. Obviously, not just a former player, but a very good player. Look, I know Teddy Bruschi gets a lot of the love. Ty Law gets a lot of the love in New England. Vince Wilfork, a lot of those key guys on the defensive side of the football that helped the Patriots win their first 3 championships. But I've always liked Mike Vrabel. I've always thought he had a very high football IQ. For those of you who've been longtime listeners, you guys remember when the Matt Castle trade happened, when the Chiefs got Matt Castle and Vrabel in a package deal? I was far more excited for Vrabel than I was Matt Castle. So if Andy Reid retired and if the Chiefs got Vrabel, I would be ecstatic about that. You think Kansas City's defense is good now? Wait till you have a guy like Mike Vrabel and Steve Spagnuolo as your defensive coordinator. Those two minds together, dude, I do not want to be an offensive coordinator preparing for that kind of team. Let me just say this about Vrabel, and we'll move on to the next subject here before I turn it over to you guys. The Titans had the number 1 seed. What year was it? I think it was 2 seasons ago. They lost Derrick Henry for more than half a season, and they still got the number 1 seed with Ryan Tannehill as their quarterback. Now they ended up losing to the Bengals in the divisional round when they got Henry back, but man, to be able to accomplish that without your best player, and you all know what kind of player Derrick Henry is, boy, I mean, that's impressive. So Vrabel should be head coach somewhere. People think that because they're waiting, Belichick and Vrabel, they think it has to do with maybe waiting on the Chiefs season to end. I don't know. Yeah, Ida's asking about Eric Bieniemy. Man, I don't know. I think it's stupid that he's not getting any head coaching offers. I don't think it has anything to do with race. I don't think it has anything to do with his legal past from 30 years ago or whatever it was. I don't think it has anything to do with any of those things. I think teams are afraid because he was surrounded by Reed, Mahomes, Kelsey, but you shouldn't, hold that against the guy. I mean, listen, I'm glad Josh McDaniels got a second chance because everything that happened in Denver, how many years was it in between the Denver job and the Raiders job? 10, 11, 12 years, somewhere around there. So everyone deserves a second chance. Andy Reid got a second chance. Granted, he already had a successful career in Philly. It just didn't end the way anyone wanted it to. Belichick, technically, New England was his third chance. He was hired as the head coach of the Jets, but never coached any games as the head coach. Go watch that for 30 for 30. A lot of things you'll learn in that one that you did not know before. I mean, there are a lot of good head coaches that didn't do well the first time around. So the fact that Eric Bieniemy is not getting any kind of offers in the last 5-6 years is just stupid. And for anyone who says, well, look how Washington did. They had Sam fucking Howell as their quarterback. How do you think any offensive coordinator would do in that situation? There's a reason why Ron Rivera got fired. And listen, if I'm not mistaken, didn't Howell lead the NFL in passing yards for some part of the season? Sam freaking Howell. I don't know, man. I'm not an owner. I don't know how these interviews are going, but a lot of people seem to bring that up. Okay, one last thing, and then again, I'll turn it over to you guys. If you have any questions, comments, please comment below. Let me know what's on your mind, and I'll read your comments. Let me just talk about Sunday. Now, in terms of the game breakdown, everything, we went over that on Wednesday's podcast of the Chiefs Zone. So if you missed that, please check that out. I put my prediction out there. I'm going 24-20. But let me say this, because Dan Orlovsky from ESPN put out a post or a tweet, whatever you want to call it, on X, formerly known as Twitter. He said that Mahomes is in his 6th consecutive AFC Championship game. Absurdity, with some laughing emojis. Yeah, that's wild. 6 straight AFC Championship appearances. This is one of the best 5-6 year runs in NFL history. And I think the only team that would be better is the Patriots because they have the 3rd Super Bowl in, 4 years? If the Chiefs can get a 3rd Super Bowl with this core group of players this season, then yeah, you can seriously consider this Chiefs squad from the last 6 years to the Patriots team that had 3 within 4 years and still they were winning a lot of games even afterwards, even though they went, 10 years? The Brady at least did in between his 3rd and his 4th Super Bowl win. But let me just say this. Let's say the Chiefs lose on Sunday. And I know a lot of people don't want to hear that. And I don't expect the Chiefs to lose. I'm picking the Chiefs to win. But let's say they lose. I know with the standard on this football team, reaching the AFC title game, as impressive as that is, and that is awesome for marketing going into next season, the standard is always Super Bowl or bust. But given how things have gone this year, specifically with the offense, if this is Kansas City's last stop, so be it. Sean Strickland, for those of you guys who are UFC fans, he was doing an interview with ESPN going into his fight last week at the pay-per-view, and he said, look, and he was a champion at the time, and he lost, and he said, look, everyone loses. Everybody loses. Now, in combat sports, you have very few athletes who have double-digit number of fights in their careers and never lost, but that's very, very rare. But his point was, when it comes to athletics, everybody loses, everyone falls. And he's right. And it kind of just got me wondering with this Chiefs team, even though, yeah, they've had some frustrating moments in the AFC title games and in the Super Bowl before, winning championships consecutively is difficult. Reaching the Final Four of the NFL is extremely tough. Brady and the Patriots, they missed the playoffs after their first Super Bowl win. Now, not that, they're terrible because of that, because they went on to win several more afterwards. But my point is this. If Kansas City loses on Sunday, yeah, in the moment, I think we would all be sad and upset. But, once, a few hours passes by, I think we can just look back and, this football team, you can make a case right now that this football team should not be here. Weren't there a lot of people saying this Chiefs team was going to be one and done? People knew that the Dolphins were dealing with injuries. People still thought that the Chiefs were not capable of winning that football game. People knew that the Bills had some injuries going into that football game. A lot of people still picked the Chiefs to lose. A lot of people said that the Bills would embarrass the Chiefs. Not even close to that happening. So for the fact that the Chiefs are here, again, think about this. Let me put it to you like this. They're in the Final Four. And I know we don't use that term in the NFL, but the point still stands. They're in the Final Four this year. There are 28 other teams that are not in this position. If you told me, let me restart that. If I asked a lot of you guys, and I know a lot of you guys are Chiefs fans, but there are also a lot of people on this page who are not Chiefs fans. If I asked you guys at the beginning of the playoffs if the Chiefs would be at this point, a lot of people would probably have said no, because they don't trust the offense. Even Mahomes, who's had some setbacks this year. Yet, here the Chiefs are, and the offense, they looked awesome last week against the Bills on the road in a playoff environment. But as the offense, are all of their issues fixed? No. And they'll be challenged again this weekend when they play the Ravens. But for the Chiefs to have all of these issues on offense and to still make it to the Final Four, what does that say about the rest of the NFL? This is a Chiefs team that, even before Patrick Mahomes got here, this is a Chiefs team that does not roll over and quit. And now with Patrick Mahomes, you're winning far more playoff games than you could ever imagine. I mean, the number of the Chiefs were 10-18 before Patrick Mahomes became the starting quarterback of the team. And now I think they're 22-21 all time in playoff history. Patrick Mahomes just won his 13th NFL playoff game. And I think the Chiefs' record with Mahomes in the playoffs is 13-3. So that's essentially a regular season prior to extending it to a 17-game season. So this is, the fact that the Chiefs are here, I think some people had their doubts. I certainly did. I did. But they've picked it up. Ever since that Bengals game on New Year's Eve, I mean, they have really turned things around. And I think that that game against the Raiders on Christmas, I think that woke the team up a little bit. Like, to lose to the Raiders like that, the way they did, that pretty embarrassing fashion. Which, by the way, is the Raiders Super Bowl. Congratulations, you're still 20 in your 21-year playoff drought. So enjoy that while you think every year is going to be your year. Get out of here. But ultimately, the Chiefs are here when a lot of people didn't expect them to be here. You're one of 4 teams left. You are playing for a chance to go to the Super Bowl. And if this is where the road ends for Kansas City, hey, man, yeah, it'd be a bummer. But we can look at this and say Kansas City made it farther than a lot of people. And Chris Broussard even said this on the show today on First Things First. He said this Chiefs team is going to be better next year, regardless of how things end this year. He expects them to be even better because they know what moves they need to make in the offseason. And if they can address those needs, this is going to be a much better football team. Obviously, you want to try to keep a couple of key pieces on defense. Keeping Chris Jones is going to be an uphill battle. L'Jarius Sneed, you should be able to do it. Might need to have a couple of cap casualty cuts, but it's certainly doable. So I'm excited to see this Chiefs team on Sunday. If they win, obviously we're thrilled. And if the Chiefs lose, I wouldn't be really upset a whole lot. Yeah, it'd be a bummer. Certainly don't want to have moral victories because that's not the standard here. But given everything this offense has gone through to make it to the AFC title game, I would consider it a good season for Kansas City for sure. Joey's asking, if Andy retires, who would you like to see as the next head coach? My first choice would be Mike Vrabel. Belichick, no. The only way that's worth it is if you win the Super Bowl every year or continue reaching the conference title game, but his drafts have been bad lately. Eric Bieniemy, listen, I guess if there's a team that's going to give Eric Bieniemy a chance, why not Kansas City? Why not? Would not be opposed to that one bit. But me personally, if I had to take a guess, I don't think Andy Reid's retiring. I don't think he's retiring. Dustin wants to know, how do you think we do this weekend? We went over that on the podcast on Wednesday. I will say, with Joe Thuney being out, which we already knew in advance, that is a concern. The left side of Kansas City's offensive line not looking the best coming into this game against a very good Ravens defense, the best they'll face all year. These are the top two defense going up against each other in terms of sacks and points per game allowed. But I think defense, I think the Chiefs defense is going to be better than a lot of people think. Yeah, Lamar Jackson can do some good things with his feet, but the Chiefs have been able to keep him in check more times than not over the years. And I think, and a lot of people might say, yeah, that's the past. And I agree. That is the past. The past has nothing to do with the now, but the Chiefs defense now is far better than the defenses we've seen before. You just got to hope that this offensive line can hold their ground and put up a good fight against Baltimore's defensive front. Because if you can do that, I think Kansas City is going to do well offensively. You can't just double or triple team Travis Kelce anymore, because there's a guy by the name of Rashee Rice who's been playing very well lately. And Marquez Valdes-Scantling had 2 big catches. I know a lot of people are going to say, oh, it was just 2 catches. Yeah, there were 2 big catches. Valdes-Scantling still had more receiving yards than any Buffalo Bills pass catcher last week. And I don't recall Buffalo's offense being banged up compared to their defense. So for Josh Allen and the Bills to not be, they did not have a play longer than 18 yards. Not one. Chiefs had 8. So if it wasn't for Travis Kelce, Marquez Valdes-Scantling would have led the game in receiving yards. So think about that one too. So it was good to see him step up the way he did. Vrabel is no Andy Reid. Teresa says, no, certainly not. Certainly not. But you know, every coach can be very good in their own ways. Vrabel does a lot of things differently. Andy Reid does a lot of things differently. And if Vrabel does come here, I would be very curious to know what would his plan be for an offense. I would imagine he wants Spags to stick around for sure, 100%. Offensively, I'd love to see what he would do with that. Do you believe in the Super Bowl logo rumor? No. Come on, guys. I've been getting a lot of people posting that lately on the page. Come on, man. Do we really believe that shit? You know what's funny is there are people every week who are like, oh, the Chiefs are going to lose. And then after game, they're like, oh, they got help from the league. It's rigged. Okay, so it can't be both. You can't sit here and tell me that the Chiefs are going to lose, and then the following tell me it's rigged, and that's why they're winning. If you really do believe that it's rigged, well, then put a lot of money down on the people. Listen, this whole like Super Bowl logo conspiracy theory, a lot of people believe in this. If you really do believe in this, go to DraftKings, go to FanDuel, go to BetMGM, put a shit ton of money on the Ravens and 49ers to win. I mean, if you really believe in that stuff, you'll win a lot of money. Why not? Do you think what do you think will be the biggest key to Sunday's game for the Chiefs to be successful? This is a really good question. You have to be way better, Jeremy, at watching the quarterback and not letting him go off. And whenever Josh Allen tried to run and was met in his tracks by the Chiefs defense, he pulled a last-second rabbit out of the bag and found a quick release to James Cook or whoever was nearby. Shakir had a couple catches, too, behind the line of scrimmage that Josh Allen took advantage of whenever the Chiefs zeroed in on him. So I think you have to be much better about that against Lamar Jackson. I said that after the game last week, and Spags said the exact same thing in his press conference on Thursday, that they have to be much better about being ready for QB runs in this game compared to last week, because Lamar Jackson is much better about that kind of thing than Josh Allen. There was a bit of a concern with Willie Gay being questionable going into the game. He was obviously questionable going to last week's game and got hurt very early, and you lose your key guy for your QB spot. I still think a guy like Drew Tranquill or a guy like Nick Bolton is capable of filling in that duty. Leo Chenal, I think, is a very underrated linebacker. I really like the job he's done this year and the amount of playing time he's received this year compared to last year as his rookie season. So if the Chiefs can find a way to contain Lamar Jackson, that's huge. They've got to get sacks in this one. They've only had 2 this postseason. Both were on Tua. They didn't get any on Josh Allen. It's crazy. The Chiefs are second in sacks and the Bills are 4th, and neither team got a sack last week. I would have guaranteed you that both teams would have had at least 1 sack going into that game. I'm just trying to read. Eagles quarterback coach Alex Tanney is free to explore. Oh, okay. Wow. I did not know Alex Tanney was a quarterback coach. Remember Alex Tanney, the basketball trick shot guy? That's cool. I did not know he was a coach. That's good to see him out there succeeding in life. Look at him. Was briefly with the Chiefs. But yeah, I mean, the defense has to be better this time around. And it's going to be in a hostile environment. So this defense has got to be ready. So and I trust that they will, because if you can do it, if you guys have NFL Plus or anything like that, go watch the second quarter of the Texans-Ravens game. That Texans defense absolutely demolished Lamar Jackson, using the defensive backs to go in there and blitz, go after Lamar Jackson, trapped him in the pocket, and took him down. I think the Chiefs can be better about that than Houston's defense. And if you can do that, you're going to have a pretty good game, I think. And hopefully the offense takes advantage of that. And if you can get some extra help on the pass blocking, and the Chiefs did use Blake Bell more in this game, which I like to see. I think that will bode well for the team. So, aloha from Cali. I thought they only said aloha in Hawaii. We love you, Andy. Don't leave yet. You have more good years left. You're saying that like I'm Andy Reid, like you're talking to me. But no, I appreciate the comment, Deborah. How rusty do you think Mark Andrews of the Ravens will be? This is a really good question. This is coming from Teresa. Yeah, here's the crazy thing about Mark Andrews is he has not played since mid-November against the Bengals. That was the same game where Joe Burrow got hurt and left, and that sidelined him for the rest of the year. He finished as the team leader in touchdown catches with 6. So he is going to be very important. Now, it is your first game back, and you do bring up a good point. Being away for such a long time, that can be a factor for sure. And they're also relying on Dalvin Cook a little bit, who, got a game under his belt as a Baltimore Raven, but has not played very well overall this year during his time with the New York Jets. So they're going to be relying on these guys, and Isaiah Likely, he's actually done a really good job filling in for Mark Andrews. So I'm very curious to see how Kansas City defends these tight. And listen, when you look at Dalton Kincaid and Dawson Knox, the Chiefs did a really good job against those 2 guys. And again, I know Buffalo's defense was banged up, but we're here talking about Buffalo's offense. Buffalo's offense, they've got a lot of great guys on that team. Shakir, Stephon Diggs. I know they were missing Gabe Davis, but Bills fans told me he was not needed for this game. Okay. I mean, if you guys say so, I disagreed going into that game. I thought Gabe Davis being absent was huge, but you still had a lot of reliable players on that offense. And your biggest play went for 18 yards. And I think Buffalo's offensive players are better than Baltimore's. I really do. The only difference is with Baltimore is they've been dominating the NFL in rushing since 2018 because of the style of quarterback Lamar Jackson brings to the table. And you guys are all aware of that. I don't need to go into detail. So, I just think ultimately, if the Chiefs can have that QB spy, because I thought they did a terrible job of that in the first half last week. But if they do a better job of it this week, they'll be good. And listen, I said this going into the Buffalo game last week. the Chiefs get off to weird starts. They let Buffalo get off to a 14-0 lead. They let the Bengals get off to a 17-7 lead. And then what happened? In a lot of these games, the teams that they're playing, they don't let them score. Since week 14, the Chiefs have not allowed more than 7 points in the second half. That's huge. And that includes the playoffs. They didn't allow any points against the Dolphins. They didn't allow any points against the Bills, just 7 points against the Bills. That's huge. Those are 2 playoff teams. Miami, they had all of their offensive players. So did the Bills minus Gabe Davis. And for the Chiefs, listen, the Chiefs have been going up against the best receivers this year. They go look up the league leaders in receiving yards this year. They've faced a gauntlet of wide receivers this season, and the Chiefs have done great against all of them this year. So, the difference with this one is that Lamar Jackson, they're the number one offense, rushing offense, and in the fourth quarter, Lamar Jackson did trick the Texans defense, making it look like he was going to run, and Isaiah Likely floated a football to him in the end zone. And that touchdown essentially put the game away, was the final nail in the coffin. So that's what I'm worried about. What's my shirt? Run AFC. Run AFC. That's I was going to show that off in the beginning, but I forgot. What do I think is going to happen Sunday, Marcus? You're asking. I'm going 24-20 Chiefs. Lions or 49ers? I got to go with the 49ers. I like the Lions. I love the turnaround story. I can definitely respect that being a Chiefs fan. But I do think the 49ers defense is going to be too much. And I think Christian McCaffrey will be a lot for the Lions to handle. I think the Lions will still do some good things in this football game. Their offense is no joke, especially that 1-2 punch at running back with Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs. But ultimately, I just don't know if they're going to have enough. Sam Laporta, phenomenal tight end. He's going to be a very good tight end for a very long time. And I think once Travis Kelce retires, I think it's going to be him and George Kittle who are going to be considered the 2 best tight ends in the NFL, who, again, are going to be both in this game. Amon-Ra St. Brown, very good wide receiver. I think he's going to be a top 5 receiver for some time in his career. So a lot of young guys on the Lions, but I just think the 49ers ultimately are going to be good. I guess, a lot of people kind of wonder, what kind of performance are they going to see from Brock Purdy? If Brock Purdy does not play very well, if he plays similar to last week, people think that there's a chance that the Lions could take advantage of that and steal a win on the road, which would be huge. I want the Lions because you can get that game back from week 1. But I expect it to be the 49ers. I was really hoping for Mahomes and Baker at Super Bowl. Yeah, that would have been cool. The OU Texas Tech rematch, that would have been cool to see for sure. Listen, I like Baker. I'm glad he was able to get a playoff win this year. That guy's gone through a lot in his career. So yeah, we'll see. We will see. Samuel wants to know, what would you say is the key to beating Baltimore? Yeah, we kind of went over this. Definitely have got to be the defense has to be much better about defending the QB runs here. I will say this. We didn't spend a lot of time talking about the offense. I know we spent a lot of time talking about the pass catchers more, but I do think the key is Isaiah Pacheco. And I know he's questionable going into the game, but he's playing. I would be shocked if he's not playing. Isaiah Pacheco, and get Clyde Edwards-Helaire involved more. Please, for the love of God, Andy Reid, do not do any of that weird shit with McCole Hardman. Please do not do it. Like, you are at the 3-yard line. Just run it with your running backs. Why are you doing that? Listen, man, I'm all for trick plays. I really, really am. But when you are right there inside the 5, just give it to your running backs who are already having a great game in general. Like, come on. Listen, Andy Reid's awesome, very smart, offensive-minded coach. Sometimes I think he tries to overdo things. It's like, come on, you've got a great offense. Stick to it. Listen, I know he probably wants to get McCole Hardman involved more, and I get that, especially because he's been here a long time. I mean, he went to the Jets briefly, but he's been part of this team for a long time. But man, this is not Little League baseball. We're not here. I remember a lot of you guys know I used to work in media production. And and I used to work for the Royals for a few seasons, and we had a college baseball game between Kansas State and Arkansas. And it was a it was like a 4 or 5 hour baseball game. We had the Royals were on the road, and we had that on the TV in the control room. The Royals game started after the college game and then ended before the Arkansas K-State game ended. My point when I bring that up is in that game, both teams let every single pitcher from the bullpen come into the game because they wanted everyone to pitch at Kauffman Stadium. Because it is a cool opportunity for college players to play it at a major league stadium. But it's like, man, we're not handing out participation awards here. Like, I know everyone loves Mecole Hardman, especially with his loyalty to this team, but 2 touches and 2 fumbles, man. Come on. Do you think Chris Jones is going anywhere else? If I had to bet money, I don't think he's coming back, Marcus. I just don't. The Chiefs, I think, need to make L'Jarius Sneed a priority. Nick Bolton, Creed Humphrey, Trey Smith, those are all guys who are now eligible for they're actually eligible for new contracts now. I remember Matt Derrick said that as of like January 8th or 9th, whenever the regular season ended, I think that is when 2021 draft picks are eligible for contract extensions. So they can start negotiating now. Obviously not ideal because you're in the middle of a postseason run, but certainly I just don't know if they have the cap for Chris Jones. Marquez Valdes-Scantling might be a cap cut unless he just goes off these next 2 games. So we'll have to see. We'll have to see what happens here. Give me a minute. By the way, if I'm skipping over your comment, I'm not ignoring anyone. It's just, we are getting some repeat questions here. There are some people saying, let's go. And, that's all cool. Willie Gay has a neck injury. This kind of came up as a surprise last Saturday before the Bills game. It was a neck injury, and he did play. It was questionable, but was expected to play, which he did, but then got hurt in the game. And, practice has kind of been up and down for him this week. So he is questionable. Stephanie's asking, did Willie Gay clear concussion protocol? Willie Gay is not in the concussion protocol. I think you're getting him mixed up with Mike Edwards. Mike Edwards is the one that was in the concussion protocol. Let me just quickly look at the injury report one last time because I want to get this right. I think he did practice, but he is listed as questionable for the game. Let me double check on this. Boy, that Chiefs injury report is big compared to Baltimore's. It's like 3 times bigger. Where is Mike Edwards? Yeah, concussion. He was limited in practice Thursday, and he was a full participant in Friday's practice, which I would say is a very good sign. I don't think he's cleared concussion protocol completely, but I think he reached a certain phase that allows him to practice. But if he was a full participant Friday, that's probably a good sign, a good indication that he has passed all of the phases of the concussion protocol. So I think that's who you were talking about, Stephanie. You said Willie Gay, but no, it's Mike Edwards. Yeah, I agree with that, John, for sure. Yeah, I agree with you, Gary. If they can force Lamar Jackson to pass on 3rd and long situations, I like Kansas City's chances in the game. I really, really do. And by the way, Buffalo was 7 of 14 on 3rd down. The Chiefs were just 1 of 5 on 3rd down. They were only 1 of 5 on 3rd down because they were great on 1st and 2nd down in the game. And I'm very curious to see how the Chiefs offense does on 3rd down if they reach it that many times, if they do better on 2nd down, even to avoid 3rd down. But yeah, making Lamar Jackson pass, forcing those 3rd and longs, that's huge. That is huge. Thoughts on Derek Nottie to IR, recent re-signing of Harris. Yeah, I don't have a lot of thoughts on the Harris signing, but the Derek Nottie situation. Derek Nottie is probably, I said this last week too, whenever Derek Nottie was on the injury report, Derek Nottie is probably the defensive player we have talked about the least. Not just me, but I feel like all of Chiefs fans, like no one ever talks about Derek Nottie. solid run stopper, but I think you have a viable option in Mike Pennell who can take care of that. So I definitely you think that the Chiefs can take care of business with the middle of the defense there, which this game very important, very very important. Do you think the Chiefs? You can't get more sacks against the Ravens. I don't know what this question is trying to say, Marcus, but I think you're asking, can the Chiefs get sacks in this game? I do. I think they'll be better about it this time. The Texans, I think, did some things that, they're on film, and I'm sure the Ravens will try to adjust to it. But you trap Lamar Jackson in that pocket, he's in trouble. He's not going to be able to run free. And if you have a defensive back in there as well, who obviously is faster than defensive linemen, he's in trouble. So I hope the Chiefs can take care of that. Hopefully they watch Pittsburgh film on they beat the Ravens twice this year. Yeah, the Pittsburgh does have a very good defense with TJ Watt and everything that he's done this year. And hopefully he's feeling better and will be ready for next season. It's unfortunate he missed the playoffs, but yeah, it's doable. It is very doable. We've seen other teams do it. Doesn't happen often. I think what scares a lot of people is the fact that the Ravens destroyed the 49ers and the Dolphins, two teams in the regular season who a lot of people thought at the time the Ravens would see again at this point in the AFC title game and would possibly rematch the 49ers in the Super Bowl. Obviously not rematching the Ravens, but we'll see. We'll see what they do. Have you been to the Ravens Stadium at Canby Lad? I have not. I've only been to one stadium outside of Arrowhead, and that's Allegiant Stadium, I think. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I know. I mean, listen, I saw ticket prices for this game, and it doesn't surprise me that ticket prices for the Ravens being home is more than what the Chiefs had recently, because the Chiefs are kind of at a point now where they're getting the AFC title game a lot at home now. Obviously not this year, but 5 years in a row, it kind of loses its luster a little bit. But the Ravens, this is their first time hosting the AFC title game in quite some time. So yeah, ticket prices are definitely going to be higher because of the excitement going on right now in Baltimore. This is the closest they've been to a Super Bowl since Joe Flacco was a quarterback. And he had that monstrous postseason run in 2012. This is a really good question. Some of you guys don't know this, but you can schedule Facebook posts. So if I want, I can schedule something at 3:39 a.m. if I wanted to. I actually have this exact question scheduled for tomorrow, but we'll discuss it now. Dustin says, "Be honest. Do you like Tony Romo talking for our games?" I'll answer this question, but let me just say this. I think sometimes fans complain way too much about announcers. I really do. I don't think any announcer is meant to be rooting for another team. Listen, I think Tony Romo is just obsessed with good quarterback play. He's a former quarterback. He gets it. He can respect good quarterback play. Listen, a lot of people think that a lot of Chiefs fans think that Romo loves Josh Allen and that Josh Allen is his favorite quarterback. Well, to your guys' surprise, a lot of Bills fans think the exact same thing about Romo loving Mahomes more than anyone else. So, and then you have a lot of fans who are not rooting for either team, and they're like, "Oh, Romo's gonna drool over both of these quarterbacks." Listen, I don't think Romo hates it. I think Romo loves the Chiefs just as much as he loves the Bills. Romo has said a lot of positive things about this Chiefs team. I remember a couple of years ago, he was saying that, other teams are playing football and the Chiefs are playing Madden, obviously referring to the fact that in a video game, it's easier to score a lot, and was comparing to the Chiefs to that type of style of football where they just score so much. This is a couple of years ago. So I don't think Tony Romo would be hating on the Chiefs and saying that at the same time. In terms of this specific question, Dustin, listen, I don't mind Tony Romo. I hope that's okay to say. I really don't. Are there announcers I don't like? Yeah, there are. I'm not a really big fan of Troy Aikman. I like Joe Buck. I really do. I've never understood the hate with Joe Buck. To go back to my other comment, Joe Buck is forever labeled as a guy who hates their team. If you guys remember the World Series, everyone in Kansas City hated Joe Buck because they felt like he was he loved Madison Bumgarner. Well, first of all, Madison Bumgarner had an amazing World Series. I don't know shit about baseball, but you can have very minimal knowledge about the sport and watch and respect the fact that Bumgarner was fucking awesome in that World Series, unfortunately. But again, to your guys' surprise, a lot of San Francisco fans were complaining that World Series, saying that he wanted the Royals to win. I mean, listen, man, when it comes to announcers, fans will only complain about the things that they want to hear. Whenever an announcer says something positive, no one cares. But when an announcer says something negative about your team or something positive about the opposing team, people get upset over that. I mean, look, if there's a game you're watching with no rooting interest, pretend for like 5 minutes you're the announcer. You're like the color commentator, like a Tony Romo or a Troy Aikman, and pretend to like think of what you would say as you're watching the game from an objective standpoint. Yeah, I'm sure Tony Romo will have some bias towards the Cowboys. I'm sure Boomer Esiason has some bias towards not that Boomer Esiason is doing color commentary, but yeah, sure, he would be more positive about the Bengals than any other team. That's the team that gave him an opportunity. Trent Green, whenever he's doing games, I'm sure he'll maybe say more positive things about the Chiefs because that's the team that gave him a big opportunity during his time in KC. And the list goes on and on. I mean, that's just the way. Tony Gonzalez, whenever he does his post-game stuff with Amazon, he'll probably be more optimistic, say positive things about the Chiefs. Alex Smith was one of the few analysts on NFL Countdown that picked the Chiefs. Why? Because they gave an opportunity, him and the Chiefs and the 49ers. So he'll always be more biased towards those two teams in Washington as well. So listen, Tony Romo, is he annoying? Yeah. But he's also very smart. He knows what he's talking about. And then whenever he does is, oh, I don't know, Jim, like that stuff's funny. It's enjoyable. So that's just the way how I feel about it. What do I think of Dan Campbell? I think Dan Campbell's your coach of the year. I know the Pro Football Writers of America gave that award to D'Amico Ryans, and that is, I don't have an issue with that whatsoever. I think Kevin Stefanski is also a legit guy because of the number of quarterback changes, and the Browns still kept winning games. But I've got to go with Dan Campbell. Like, the turnaround season in Detroit is a very special story. And, you know, in this world we're in where it's so easy to be impatient, especially with the social media era, I think there's pressure on owners to maybe let a guy go because you had a bad season. But no, they've stuck with Dan Campbell, and it's paying off. And I think this Lions team is here to stay. I think they're going to be a contender in the North for a long time. I think they're going to be a contender in the conference for a long time. So I love the job Dan Campbell's done in Detroit, 100%. Lamar Jackson is a running back. Yeah, I've heard that a time or two. Would like to see a Patrick Mahomes sneak. Me too. You're paying the guy $500 million. Look, man, Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts. I mean, so many quarterbacks do QB sneaks or tush pushes. They don't get hurt. There was one freak accident with Mahomes. Just one. I just think, you know, Andy Reid gets so afraid of that kind of thing. And why? Listen, if you guys go back and watch the Chiefs and Lions game from week 1, Mahomes was scrambling at one point and got drilled from behind. That's what she said. By a Lions defender. Like, knocked him down really hard. Mahomes has a bigger chance to get hurt on a play like that than a quarterback sneak. But I'm just a fan with a microphone and a camera right here. So what do I know? I would love this, Dustin. Where's that play? There was ever a time to do it this week. Why not? Do whatever you got to do to get to the Super Bowl. Do the Ravens have a good pass defense? Yes. Kyle Hamilton's very good. The other safety, his name escapes my mind right now. Who had 7 picks on the season. Gosh, his name escapes my mind right now, but I'm looking it up. I'm cheating. Geno Stone. I knew it was a shorter name. I think Geno Stone was a Pro Bowl snub and an All-Pro snub. Hamilton, I mentioned, you know, he's a very good cornerback, defensive back. Ronald Darby, I mean, he's beatable. The Bengals certainly proved that in games this year. So still has done some good things in his career. Rocky Ya-Sin, been around a long time in the NFL. Marlon Humphrey, I don't know if he's set to play or not. What is he on the injury report? Questionable. What was a full part? He's been practicing all week, so that he'll probably play. Yeah, I mean they've got some guys on that defense. Patrick Queen, Roquan Smith. I mean, two very good linebackers who can do everything. So I'll read a few more and get out of here. Dalton says the interesting part about this game will be the pass game. Yeah, sure, they can run, but can they pass? The Bills were a dual threat. Lamar Jackson pass game just isn't there. Listen, I agree with this, Dalton. You do raise a very good point. And I feel like people in Baltimore get offended whenever you say something negative about Lamar Jackson. I'll be honest, I was one of those guys that thought Lamar Jackson had, a very short lifespan in the NFL. And man, especially this year, after dealing with injuries each of the last 2 years. And look, they were, if Tyler Huntley doesn't fumble at the 1, they probably advance to the AFC title game or division round, whatever game that was. Yeah, that was a wild card game now that I remember, because Cincinnati went on to play Buffalo before they played KC. The whole thing with Lamar Jackson, he's playing great football. He really is. But you are right. If you need to pass the ball, if you need to abandon the running game, you're in a very bad spot if you're Baltimore. And that's why, it's good on them that they've been able to blow out some of the top tier teams to close out the season, because they have not been great in some situations where they've needed to pass the football. Yeah, 24 touchdowns, 7 picks. That's not bad. That's actually good. But what if you're playing a very good defense like Kansas City's defense that doesn't force a lot of turnovers, but does get a lot of sacks? That's a recipe for disaster if you're Baltimore. That's why if you're Baltimore, the key will be to avoid 3rd and long situations, because at that point, it's like, man, you better hope that the Chiefs defense collapses and gives you a wide open lane on 3rd and long. Because if they don't, you better hope that Odell Beckham Jr. and Zay Flowers get wide open. Mark Andrews, likely, all those guys. So, and I'm wondering if they do what Buffalo and Cincinnati did in recent weeks against the Chiefs, which was short passes, because that was working against the Chiefs. But what does Steve Spagnuolo do? He makes adjustments, and he's very damn good at that. More pressure on Baltimore than KC for sure. Yeah, maybe I can see that, especially since they're at home. Whereas the Chiefs, this is like, they've kind of been here before. Yeah, the season has not gone the way anyone wanted, but this is kind of like a place like they're here. This is their first time on the road, but they got the whole road playoff game narrative out of the way last week. So now it's just, hey, we're still here in the AFC title game. We're just on the road this time. Big deal. No big deal. Same reason I can't send Collinsworth. Yeah. Here's a guy. Yeah, he says that a lot. I got Greg Olsen. Man, I don't know. So obviously, like him crying about the hold last year in the Super Bowl when he says it was the right call, but he's like, late in the game like this in a big game. But look, I don't agree with that shit, man. I don't care if there's 1 second left in a game, or if it's the first snap of a football game. If there's a hold, if there's a penalty of any kind, it needs to be thrown. I don't care what point in a game it is. The whole, everyone always says, let them play. But if it's your team that benefits from the call, you're not going to be saying that. No one will. Nobody will. By the way, against the Vikings, when L'Jarius Sneed committed a penalty, all the people that said let them play were the ones crying about it. So, and I called those people out, but, they don't want to admit to their hypocrisy. Imagine that. But Greg Olsen, even last week, Greg Olsen talking, what game was it? Where Greg Olsen just did not even have the most casual understanding of clock management. I can't remember what game it was, though, for the life of me. I want to say it was San Francisco and Green Bay. I think it was Green Bay that was trying to use timeouts so they could get the ball back quicker or something along those lines. I can't remember, but he couldn't understand that having, at least 1 timeout or 2 timeouts with a minute some left was doable. And he's just like, I don't know. You like Mitch Holthus? Yeah. Yeah, Mitch Holthus is good at what he does, man. Now, he's a different announcer. He's a play-by-play announcer, not a color commentator. But yeah, he is one of the better radio announcers for sure. Paul Allen of the Vikings, very good. I have not, Teresa. No, I know that's that was talked about earlier in the year. I think they're trying to keep things private, and that's completely understandable. Hopefully she's doing well, man. I mean, that family's gone through a lot. Fortunately, Alex Smith made a lot of money playing pro football. So when it comes to the medical bills, I'm sure those are being taken care of. But man, regardless, if your parent makes a lot of money or not, for a kid to go through something like that, dude, that's just scary, man. It just makes you feel fortunate that as a kid you never went through anything like that. I'm not a parent, but I just think of how my parents would react. I know how they would react in a situation like this. Brendan Schaub, former UFC fighter, does a lot of comedy stuff, a lot of podcasting. He just opened up recently on social media about his daughter and everything she's going through. It's like, man. All the best to her, though. Hopefully she comes out on the winning side of this. Do you like Isaiah Pacheco? Yeah, man, I love Isaiah Pacheco. Last summer, I was not this past summer, the summer before that, I was one of the very few people talking about how the Chiefs are going to score big with that draft pick. I've been saying that ever since he got drafted, and look now. Oh boy, he's playing really, really well. Honestly, don't think Queen can keep up in with Kelce in coverage. I certainly hope so. It'll be their biggest test yet. A lot of people think Kelce is the best tight end of all time. So, let's see what happens here. We will win. Shut all the haters up. Listen, I think the haters have already been shut up. If the Chiefs lose, yeah, I'm sure they're all going to come out of the woodwork because they're all in hiding now. Like none of them are saying anything at the moment, but because they were all saying that the Chiefs were going to be one and done. And then they said, oh, well, they won't get past the Bills. Well, they're in the Final Four this year. So the Chiefs have already proved a lot of people wrong this year, regardless of how things go. Any update on the three guys' fate after the Dolphins game? I do not know what this is in reference to, Teresa. I do not. Sorry. Sounds like something bad. So hopefully all is well there. Do you think Taylor can be penalty free? Do I think Taylor Swift can be penalty free, Paula? Is that what you're asking? Taylor Swift? No. You're obviously asking about Jawan Taylor. I hope so. Come on. Like he's just committed so many this year. Listen, I like Jawan Taylor as a pass blocker. I do. I really do. But the guy commits so many damn penalties. L'Jarius Sneed commits a lot of penalties too, but still plays good cover quarterback. He's only allowed one touchdown, and that was this past week against the Bills. For that to be the only for your only touchdown allowed to come in a playoff game in the divisional round against Josh Allen, yeah, I mean, it's safe to say you've been having a pretty damn good season for sure. Read a couple more comments here and get out. Let's get this spammer out of here. Get out of here, spammer. Saw a post by a Buffalo fan that said every team that the Bills beat in the divisional round, oh yeah, they lose the following. Yeah. So last year the Bengals beat the Bills and they lost to the Chiefs. The year before that, the Chiefs beat the Bills and then lost to the Bengals. The year before that, the Chiefs beat the Bills in the AFC Championship game and then they lost in the Super Bowl. Yeah, that's like the most coincidental statistic ever that people like put a lot of belief in. Look, I don't really care so much for historical patterns and like history repeating itself. I really don't. Some people do. I saw a post that whenever KU loses to West Virginia in basketball, the Chiefs lose the playoff game the next day. Who the hell keeps track of this shit? Like, how do people? I don't know. I remember there used to be this conspiracy theory before KU football started playing better. Whenever KU football would get a rare victory that the Chiefs would lose the next day, I'm like, what empirical evidence do you have to support this conspiracy theory? Please. Like, who believes this shit? A couple more. Chris says Lamar is going to struggle throwing in the rain. Yeah, I've been hearing rumors about so the weather there. That's why, you know, if you're the Chiefs, do what you did last week. Dominate on first down, dominate on second down, and avoid third down. The Chiefs only had 5 third down plays last week. So that'd be huge if the Chiefs do that again. Let's see. I'm heading out. Okay. All right. Take care. Appreciate it. Yeah, we're about to wrap up anyway. Do you think we use our wide receiver from the Steelers? Wide receiver from the Steelers. The only one I can think of is Juju, but he's not here anymore. Yeah, Marcus, if you can clarify on that before I sign off, I'd like to answer whatever question you're asking, but yeah, I'm not quite sure what that says. I did see that Mahomes is going up against 7 number 1 teams in his career and is 6-0 so far, and Baltimore will be number 7. Yeah, you know, and again, like I said earlier, you know, that stuff is nice. It really is. And it just shows he's competitive, but just because it's happened in the past doesn't guarantee it'll happen every single time. I still expect him to win, but not because, you know, of that pattern. So, okay, rain in the 50s. If it's in the 50s, man, good on them. I think it's supposed to be 60 next Saturday. You can damn well bet I'm going to the park next Saturday. You guys all know where to find me next week. I see a lot of Chiefs fans doubting this team. We got this. I'm very confident and have a ton of faith about this team. Yeah, look, the thing with the Chiefs is they just don't quit. They just don't. They do not. We just got a new receiver from the Steelers. That might be okay. So let me look this up. That might be like one of those like reserve contracts type of thing. Chiefs wide receiver. Because I don't really pay attention to that kind of stuff. Yeah, Anthony Miller on a reserve future contract. Yeah, he's not doing anything with the team this year. No. Even teams that are in the playoffs, a lot of teams do start signing players that are on reserve future contracts. And these are guys that you're going to hear about in OTAs and training camp, but you're not going to see them in the playoffs, Marcus. I expect MVS and Hardman to contribute immensely besides Kelsey and Pacheco. I mean, I hope so. I said last week that I hope Hardman can. I mentioned those 2 guys also, Steve. I said MVS before the game last Sunday, and he ended up doing well. And I also mentioned Hardman, the things that he can do with his feet. But unfortunately, Hardman, the 2 times he touched the football, he fumbled. He fumbled. Yeah, Clyde Edwards-Helaire too. I agree. I mean, listen, run the ball with Pacheco, but don't overuse him. Let Clyde Edwards-Helaire run as well. He's playing great. Look, Chris Jones has a $1 million incentive for this Sunday where if the Chiefs win and advance to the Super Bowl, Chris Jones does get $1 million. Last time he had money on the line, man, it's like he was on pace to break the NFL record for QB pressures in a game. So, you know, money's on the line. So, you know, he's going to step up. And I hope he does it, man, against Lamar Jackson. Denny's asking, who do I think makes it to the big game? Chiefs and 49ers. And that we will end it right there. I always say I'm going to keep things short, and I don't, because you guys are fucking awesome. And there's always a great turnout for these on a Friday night. So thank you guys so much. I appreciate all of you guys who spent part of your Friday night with me. For those of you guys that did not watch live, but watch the archived version on Facebook and YouTube, thank you guys so much. For those of you that tuned in late, if you want to catch some of the other stuff I brought up earlier, this video is about to be archived right away on Facebook and on YouTube. By the way, the YouTube channel, actually, let me grab that link real quickly, because we're going to start putting a lot more content on YouTube. So, YouTube and the TikTok account as well. So if you guys would, please, so I just commented with the link. So please subscribe to the YouTube channel, because I'm going to start putting a lot of videos on there as well. Would greatly appreciate it. It would help out a lot. Also, if you look for the Chiefs Zone on Instagram, we're going to be doing more on that as well. So I know some of you guys are not on all of those, and I understand, but I think a lot of you guys are on YouTube as well. So if you guys would, please hit the subscribe button on the YouTube account for the Chiefs Zone. All right, guys, my name is Farzin Vousoughian. Happy Red Friday to all of you. I will talk to you all later. Just a reminder, we will be doing a pregame live chat Sunday at 9 a.m. We'll be doing a halftime live stream, and then postgame we'll be doing the Chiefs Zone podcast. So next time I do a live stream, it will be on game day. All right, guys, enjoy your weekend. Talk to you all later. Peace out.